La Maíza or Los Mayitos is a very dangerous and powerful cartel coming from Sinaloa, Mexico, so you already know that they mean business. This cartel is being led by a very powerful leader by the name of Ismael Zambada or El Mayo. And in 2024, a conflict broke out between this cartel and another cartel by the name of La Chapiza. And if you think this name sounds familiar, it's probably because you heard it in the news after a popular drug cartel by the name of El Chapo was arrested. And they also have a lot of popular artists shouting them out in their popular songs. And this was a very big problem because over there in Mexico, motherfuckers are damn near dying just for power. A small little backstory that I think you guys should know is that these guys were both in the same cartel at one point. They were both into the Sinaloa cartel. And eventually these guys split up to make their own cartels to become the most powerful and the most wealthy. Now this doesn't mean that they were always going against each other. At one point they were actually very good friends. They would even consider themselves family. And everything between these guys was completely okay. They were putting a lot of work into the cartel and they were putting the Sinaloa cartel on the map. Everything was going smoothly until Chapo finally got arrested. That being in February 2016, resulting to a deadly shootout. And the Chapo probably would have gotten away if it weren't for the bummy ass cars in Mexico. He actually had a really good escape plan and almost made the military think that he was dead.
At 4:40 a.m. in the pre-dawn hours of Friday, January 8th, the Marines began battering down the gate of Chapo's safe house.
So this is where he came out. He popped out of this manhole cover, which is about a half mile from the house, straight.
At 8:55 a.m., 4 hours after the first shots were exchanged, right there, you can see Chapo and Cholo Ivan climbing out of the sewer. And in this cell phone video, you can see them carjack a white VW Jetta and speed away. The fugitives got only 3 blocks before the Jetta broke down. They jacked a second car, a red Ford Focus. A couple of miles out of town, that car broke down. The mirrors masked a hidden door.
Behind the secret door, the entrance to one of El Chapo's trademark tunnels. It's connected to a network of storm drains and sewers.
After 20 minutes of rain, we thought that Chapo might drown in the sewers because of the high level of the water.
And with El Chapo being gone, that means that his kids had to take over the business, that being Joaquin Guzman and Ovidio Guzman, or better known as Los Chapitos. And they damn near caused a whole war all around Mexico, killing millions of innocent people. A lot of torturing was happening and a lot of dead bodies were just laying around all of Mexico. But that's not even one of the craziest things that they've done. These 38-year-old cartel leaders somehow managed to track down, kidnap, and traffic one of the most infamous drug kingpins, that being El Mayo. And these guys somehow managed to traffic him all the way over to the US in a goddamn airplane without anyone knowing about it. This was after he was tricked into coming to a meeting that was supposed to have every cartel, even including Los Mayitos. And a whole bunch of politicians were supposed to be there, even including the government of Sinaloa. But what El Mayo didn't know was that he was about to walk into a trap. And they still somehow managed to knock out both of his security guards, managed to throw him in the back of a pickup truck and put him inside of an airplane and trafficked him all the way to El Paso, Texas.
Mayo was tricked to go to a meeting with high-level cartel members and politicians. A former rector of Sinaloa State University, Hector Melesio Cuen, was to be there, as well as members of the Chapitos and even the Sinaloan governor. The meeting was in a massive house in the Huertos de Pedregal residential community of Culiacan. Mayo went in first with 3 bodyguards, but gunmen subdued them and took Mayo hostage.
Since last week, how does El Chapo's 38-year-old son get his father's major domo, a ruthless cartel boss twice his age, onto an unsecured airplane and over the border into the United States?
It was rumored that Los Chapitos were the reason that El Mayo ended up being arrested. They somehow managed to get him into a plane, traffic him to the US, and got him to admit that he snitched. And of course, El Mayo ended up being furious. Not only was he being betrayed by what he thought was family, but he was also being ratted on because there was also another rumor being spread that Los Chapitos was the reason that El Mayo was captured in 2024. Now this caused some serious conflict out there because this led to them having their own uncle even betray them. This being El Guano. Now El Guano's actually El Chapo's own brother. And this feud was pretty big in Mexico because it led to a cartel war. This meaning that each state that was supported by a cartel or was being led by a cartel, each citizen basically wasn't safe and basically couldn't come outside because it was very, very dangerous. Now I'm not gonna go too deep on what happened because I'm not trying to get fucking slimed out, bro. I'm not trying to say the wrong thing and then the next thing I know my fucking head is inside my fucking parents' mailbox or some shit. So I'm not gonna go too deep into the beef, but something you should know already is that these YouTubers were gonna lose their lives over associating themselves with this cartel. See, after the betrayal of Mayo, he decided to go after everyone in Mexico and he didn't give a fuck what would happen. By all means, he was gonna become the most powerful one, even if they had to murder some people that were completely innocent. If you've been scrolling long enough on Twitter, you've probably seen this image before in your timeline. Reading if you recognize any of these cartel members or influencers or even YouTubers that have associated themselves with a cartel by the name of Los Chapitos, with the most famous ones on the list being Peso Pluma, Marquitos Toys, having 5 million subscribers. He was actually the most endangered one, being captured and set free and having to move all the way to Europe. Carlos de Sarraga is a YouTube podcaster that interviews cartels and retired cartel members. And Fidel Castro, with 2 influencers being caught and tortured and actually having their lives taken away. Those being El Gordo Perucci, who was a very loved YouTuber in Mexico, leaving behind 250,000 of subscribers, passing away December 13, 2024. And El Pinky, who was a TikTok star, with even pictures and video evidence of the last moments of these 2 influencers. The most saddening one being of El Pinky admitting that he was an informant for the cartel. Now before I show you the video, I'm just gonna give you a warning that it is very graphic.
¿Qué tienen aquí? Que le pasaba información al MF. ¿Qué información les pasabas? La ubicación donde se encontraban los chapos. ¿Se la mandabas esa información? A Lupe Campos y Noé Campos del Cartel MF. ¿Cuánto te daban? Me prometían carros que me iban a alivianar.
Now, why is all of this happening? Why are they hunting specifically all of these YouTubers and all of these influencers? What do they have to do with the cartel? They just seem like they're trying to live their best lives and make money, but it goes way deeper than that. For example, Gordo Perucci was actually a pretty well-known YouTuber out in Mexico, and it caught people by surprise when they found out that he was working for a cartel and ended up being murdered for associating himself with these guys. He was sadly killed inside of his own home in front of his own family, even after getting a warning to turn off all of his cameras and not to be outside, and sadly knocked on his door and shot him right on the spot. And the same thing could have happened to another YouTuber by the name of Marquitos Toys after he was reported missing in November, but escaped as soon as he saw that the war in Mexico was getting even worse, taking his whole family and relocating to Europe because Marquitos was seriously endangered because the cartel was offering a reward just for his location. And since the cartel couldn't find Marquitos, well, they decided to burn down all of his businesses and all of his properties. This was including one of his local restaurants and one of his parents' houses, shortly after they were finished remodeling it too. But one of the most lesser known members didn't have the same luck that Marquitos had. El Pinky was sadly captured and killed hours after filming his last TikTok. And he even had his last moments alive recorded because he was forced to admit that he was an informant for both cartels, giving away location details to La Maíza, which is the rival cartel of Los Chapitos, and he himself was associated with them, so no way were they gonna trust him and let him live. Plenty of people on this list have been getting hit off, and sadly it's only gonna continue until finally everyone on that list is gone or until someone finally does. Now the big question is, how did these guys even know that they were working for a cartel or even associated with them? Well, something about these YouTubers is that they would be flexing a lot of their wealth, and there is no way in hell that you have a Hellcat, a Lamborghini, a fuck ton of firearms, and a bench truck just from working hard out in Mexico. No way. You have to be in some type of cartel or something crazy. And the cartel noticed this weird behavior coming from these 2 YouTubers. How in the hell were they coming with all this money and were flexing it all to their fans? And well, I'm assuming the cartel did a little research on Marquitos Toys and found out that later on in his life he was actually working with the cartel when he was younger, and his father was also attending meetings of the cartels. So maybe Marquitos got tired of living that narco life and decided to live out a normal life by getting a camera and starting up a YouTube channel. But do remember that this is Mexico, and Mexico is still very poor, so he still had to make money somehow, and he probably decided to do some cartel stuff on the side, that being money laundering. And money laundering is the reason that these YouTubers and influencers are on this list. This shit was so damn serious that they got a whole ass plane to drop flyers from the sky just to warn the locals about these money launderers. And just recently, as of today, as I'm recording this video, Los Mayos ended up burning down a whole ass casino that was used by the Chapitos just for their money laundering. And this war is just gonna continue escalating from here because even Los Chapitos are doing stuff that are just not acceptable, like taking hostage of an innocent woman that was literally just a cook for one of these cartels. She wasn't associated with any money laundering or any killings, but they still ended up killing her, leaving behind one of her daughters. And currently threats have been thrown at Peso Pluma and another artist by the name of Natanael Cano, but he did that shit to himself because he was dissing them on his Instagram live and at his shows, causing him to cancel a lot of shows in Mexico. This drama even caught the attention of the DEA, even putting Marquitos Toys as a wanted man by the FBI.